Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the PFN Miami Dolphins podcast. My name is Dolph Freaky here. I am once again joined by my co-host, Adam Beasley, and we finally had a preseason game. We have real football to talk about today. How are you, Adam?
Thank God. I'll tell you what, we're hitting absolutely the dog days. There's a blast of enthusiasm, blast of excitement for the start of training camp. And there'll be a blast of enthusiasm in about 2.5 weeks when look, there's real NFL football in 23 days.
I couldn't be happier. Honestly, we were scraping for some content for a little bit there. And of course you get excited when training camp goes on, and then the heat and those miserable days out there. I know you're over it.
Oh yeah, no, I was over it last week, but you know what? I'm a true pro. We got to fight through it. It was insanely hot today. Insanely hot, as hot as it gets, because they had a quick little 20-minute shower at 10:05, and by 10:40, the sun was out and it was just cooking.
Yeah, I know. I'm over here in Naples, and I got out of my car, and I'm like, it is brutal today. I can only imagine, being out there in training camp, and I haven't gone all week. So shame on me, but life gets in the way sometimes. But yeah, no, I would have been totally melting today. So
you had family day at the first preseason game, right?
Yes, I brought my daughter. I was supposed to bring the whole family, my son, my husband. Jared threw his back out at the gym 2 days before, and so he was face down on the bed, and I'm like, are you going? And he's like, I can't. He's like, I can't imagine sitting in those seats and watching a game and it being hot and all that. So he didn't go. So I decided we're just having girls' day. So I brought my daughter who's 7, and she's really, really starting to get into it now. She's really into the outfits and the whole experience. She knows exactly where to go. She's stomping up the ramps, getting into the stadium. And, for me as a mom, that's my proud mom moment, because I'm like, yes, there's a mini doll Freaky now. Look at her go. Look at her stomping up that ramp. I'm proud.
How's her wig collection?
You know what? It's we share the wig collection, but this little pink one in the back here is hers. That's her freaky wig. Okay, when she's 3 years old, she determined that she was to be called Freaky, and we've stuck with it ever since. And there's some companies that have sent us little sunglasses and things that say Freaky on them. So she's always got her sunglasses handy. She's got her little backpack. She's got her little cheerleading outfit with the fancy skirt and the sparkly everything. So she's already on it.
The only circumstance where it's okay calling your 7-year-old daughter Freaky.
I know. I'm like, babe, are you sure you want to be called that? And she's like, oh, yes. I even have it on a podcast. I had her do a podcast with me. I'm going to say she was 4 or so. And it's just the most hilarious thing. She's talking, and I'm like, oh, so, you like the Dolphins? And she's like, yeah, well, I've never been to a game, but yeah, I love the Dolphins. So then I'm like, okay, I got to start getting this girl out to the game. So preseason is the best time. If you have little ones, preseason's the best because it's chill. There's not a whole lot of people crowding your space. There's not a whole lot of drunkards out there. It's just a really good time to bring the little ones. So I've been taking advantage.
Do you have 2 or 4 season tickets?
I have 2. So I said, you know what? I'm like, next year, I think I'm probably going to have to upgrade to 4. Mm-hmm. And where I is the deep end, and it's very lively, and there's a lot of intoxication, and there's a lot of language and things like that going on up there. And I struggle because I'm like, I love the deep end. That's where my heart's at. That's where I belong, wholeheartedly belong there. And we stand the whole game, and it's just very intense in there. But I'm like, I don't know if this is a place for children. So I really have to evaluate that in the next couple of years and see what we're going to do with our tickets.
Also, you really need the PFN Miami Dolphins podcast to pick up to pay for 4 season tickets to Hard Rock Stadium. That's
right. I need some more supplemental income. Maybe we need to have Freaky on the show one day, and she'll tell you everything she knows about the Dolphins. That'll boost the ratings, huh?
Well, I bet Freaky could have been more effective throwing and catching the ball than the Miami Dolphins in the preseason opener. That was, obviously there's a lot of context involved. Tua didn't play. They had their backup quarterbacks in, but beyond that, they had no warm-blooded bodies to be able to finish that game for them. They've been so banged up at wide receiver. It was a little tough on the eyes, though, wasn't it?
It was a little tough on the eyes, but, like, I try to take it all with a grain of salt, as everyone should, okay? Like, this is preseason, and yes, we didn't have our starting quarterback, or a lot of our starters, really. Um, you know, quarterback play, not very impressive. Yeah, what did we have? Skylar with 95 yards and Mike White with 26. Ouch.
Yeah, I think they combined for a completion percentage of like 38% and a passer rating of like 45.6. Again, there are a
I don't
lot
wanna
of
be rude, but I mean, at that point, just let a fan give it a shot.
could hardly have been worse. It was look, they've had a lot going on,
There.
and they kind of explained it afterwards. Mike White had the second half of that game, and it was really like wearing a name tag and like, "Hi, my name is Dolfreaky, and I'm going to go run routes that I've just learned today."
Yeah.
They were out of running backs, they were out of tight ends, they were way out of wide receivers, and we'll talk about that in a minute. How I think the wide receiver position is kind of little troublesome at this point of the preseason. What were your
Yeah, we found a way to win, huh?
well? I would say a big reason why is they ran the ball really, really well.
Right. They did, and the defense was on top of things. I will say the defense was like the shining bright spot of the whole game.
Yeah, and we'll start with the offense first. And the offensive line has had again a lot of moving parts. Aaron Brewer seems to be out for at least a couple of weeks. I think he's got some hand injury he's dealing with. Teron Armstead didn't play; none of the starters played, but the game was encouraging because you saw a bunch of these guys who are going to be asked to step up as backups, really assert themselves, and they fired off the ball, and they were able to get to the second level in the run game. And they're really, I have to go look at the stats, but it doesn't feel like, despite the bad quarterback play, that there was a lot of pressure on the quarterback either. So, again, it was twos versus twos and threes versus threes. But if you're looking for, hey, look, general trends, uh, the Butch Berry fire off the line of scrimmage message has gotten through. And you have to think that when they get the ones out there, that's just going to continue.
Yeah, I agree. I think we saw some really good things from some of our rookies. I was pretty impressed with Jalen Wright. I mean, he came highly regarded, so we knew that he wasn't going to be a flat out disappointment. But for our fourth round pick, what do you have? 10 carries for 55 yards, so 5.5 per carry. Pretty solid, for a new rookie.
Yeah, good math, by the way, on your feet, being able to divide 55 divided by
Dude,
10.
and I am not a math person. It's the
Yeah,
10 carries that make it easy.
yeah, he definitely looked the part, and that's, if you're a Dolphins fan and if you're a Dolphins coach particularly, you've got to be thrilled with the idea of, hey, now we talk about having like waves and waves of running backs, but like it's legit with this team. Raheem Mostert, Pro Bowler in 2023, broke franchise records for touchdowns, got a little bit more money in the offseason. He's still going to be RB1, but it's going to be a slash situation that, he and Devon Achan will continue to be the number ones. And McDaniel kind of joked about it this week. Well, why not four number ones? But that's
Right.
probably,
Now, this is not a bad problem to have.
yeah, no, for sure. And it doesn't seem like we've had a chance to talk to all those backs, and we've talked about this before, how it's such a good locker room that you don't expect them to really make waves. And it's good to see them all kind of, finding their roles. Their injuries are going to happen. They always do. Achan got hurt last year. Mostert's been, up and down with injuries throughout his entire career. So if you're Jalen Wright, who, to your point, really, really was impressive, and he was able to run inside, he was able to run outside, he showed patience, he showed speed, all these things that you're looking
It
for.
was evident to me. That was
Yeah.
very
Uh,
evident.
how do you think that's all gonna fit? Do you think they're gonna have like a pitch count? Do you think they're gonna go with the hot hand? Do you think they're gonna have packages for one but not for the other? How do you think it's gonna go?
I mean, I think the hot hand works with Jalen, especially, but I'm sure they'll try a variety of different things with each one of them. We got to keep other teams guessing. We can't just have one situation that we always use for one running back. So I really, really like the explosiveness and the speed that we've seen with Jalen Wright so far. I think, now thinking about all these speed guys that we have on this team, we have Tyreek, we have Waddle. Now we have a really, really fast running back. Like, that's very, very exciting to me.
Yeah, and they've had plenty of speed going into this season. Certainly, Mostert has had real high GPS clocking, and and Achan was the top 10, had one of the top 10 ball carries of the season last year. If you go and look at when they've had their most success, it's when they've got two running backs in the field at the same time.
Mhm.
And if you go three deep at that position, you're able throughout the course of the year, unless you get so screwed with injuries. But like if it's just, hey, ding here, a little hamstring there, maybe a guy misses a month with this or that, you're still able to have continuity of scheme, and you're able to
Mhm.
to to assert your will on the opposition. So if it's Mostert and Achan, if it's Mostert and Wright, if it's Wright and Achan, all those combinations I think can work in a lot of different ways. And Achan, we've seen him. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. There was a 2-minute drill where he was targeted like 6 consecutive times, and the sixth time was for a touchdown. So they're going to really incorporate him more into the passing game a lot more this year. So I just think that the versatility they have, tight ends that can do a lot, and obviously running backs that aren't interchangeable. I mean, they all have certain strengths, but they all kind of fit what they want to do. I think it's going to take a lot of the pressure off of Tyreek and Jalen
Yeah.
to really carry that offense.
Yeah, I think what we're maybe have been lacking in the last couple of years is like we either have, a very, usually a very pass heavy offense. And so now if we have, better running back core, we can split it, more evenly between running and passing and, hopefully avoid injuries in that regard, less pressure on Tua, to do the thing and more explosive plays and more exciting plays. I love running plays. I particularly love action in the end zone that I'm situated in. So come on, run down, come straight to Dolph Freaky, come get a hug.
So what when you're able to run the ball as well as the Dolphins have, and I think they'll continue to do, it just opens up so much because the play action game,
Mhm.
the RPO stuff. If the absolute last thing McDaniel wants to be is predictable, and
Yeah,
kind of they got predictable last year on third downs passing
sure
the
did.
ball, and
Mhm.
uh, I think if you're able to do a lot, particularly in the early downs, if you're able to get say Mostert and Achan or Mostert and Wright on the field at the same time and maybe one you have them both in the backfield or we'll split one out wide, all these things. First down passes are the most efficient play in football because it's 1st and 10. You can do literally anything you want,
Right.
and so all options are on the table. And that's I think you're going to see the Dolphins. They're going to certainly throw the ball a lot, but they're going to run it as well to keep teams guessing.
Yeah, I agree. We did have an injury on the field. Keon Smith suffered an ACL, if I'm correct. So that's unfortunate to see that. Were there other injuries during the game? I don't recall anything super serious.
Yeah, Grayson Murphy out for the year with a knee injury, and Cam Brown as well on
Mhm.
IR. So they, certainly there's a reason these teams don't want to play their best players in the preseason, particularly early on. I think we'll see more and more over the next week, maybe 2 weeks of your starters. But like, anytime you go on the field, it's just uncontrolled chaos. It
Right.
is, and like you could be doing the absolute right thing and have someone roll up the back of you, and you're out for the season. That's kind of happened
Yeah.
with
Hate
Keon.
to see it. Hate
Yeah,
to see it, especially in preseason.
and it kind of it doesn't hurt them totally, but you don't want to chip away at your depth at this point of the year. I think it's going to absolutely open the door now for Patrick Paul, who I think had an excellent game. He really there's all the rookies showed up, and we can get into that in a minute. You talked about Jalen Wright. Chop Robinson surprisingly didn't play, but the rest of the rookies, Patrick McMorris, I think was really good.
McMorris.
Yeah, Malik Washington had some splash plays. So you got to be encouraged by that rookie class. But talking the offensive line in particular, look, there Teron Armstead's not going to do much. We saw him in practice today. He did, I think, the first 11 on 11s he's had this entire offseason, but he may have taken like 5 or 6 snaps. They're going to protect him at all costs. He got hurt last year in the Texans joint practice. Talk about uncontrolled chaos, just another situation where he got rolled up on. It wouldn't surprise me if they sit him for those joint practices as well, just to keep him out of just crazy randomness.
Mhm.
Um, but I liked what I saw out of that offensive line. Unfortunately, you're not going to see the full offensive line this preseason. Aaron Brewer
Mhm.
has, I believe, a hand injury that's going to keep
Okay.
him out this week and probably next as well. That's meant Liam Eichenberg, the traveling man, poor guy, who had wanted to be a right guard, but desperately wanted to be a right guard this year, and now has to play center because Brewer gets hurt. It's just
It's
how it
kind of
is,
hard to run from your fate sometimes there, Liam.
right? And so I think I would be more concerned about this offensive line if it was their tackles getting hurt, like if it was
Mhm.
Armstead who was hurt or Austin Jackson. Those guys, knock on wood, have been able to stay healthy this preseason. Um, their guard play is not going to be great. We knew it going in. We don't know if they're going to get anything out of Isaiah Wynn, who's just been on pup the entire time. Their tackles are going to drive the conversation, and their center. Like I think Brewer's a really good player when he gets healthy. The guards are going to kind of just have to be along for the ride. Robert Jones, I think, has been really, really good, and I think they're going to have, they're going to have some success running behind him. I think he's made a big step forward. Jack Driscoll and Liam Eichenberg and all those other guys and Lester Cotton. We'll see. I kind of feel like, Allie, that they're still one interior lineman away from having a complete unit, and maybe they swing a trade between now and the end of cuts.
Mhm. We still have time, right? When is the final cut?
I think I looked it up today. I think it's 2 weeks from today, the 27th, I believe, of August.
Okay.
So, this time next week, if you have major concerns about their offensive line still, I would not at all surprise me to see them, flip an asset. Maybe even someone, if their team's in need of a running back but has an extra guard, maybe just straight up for Jeff Wilson, who has had an
Mhm.
excellent camp. But we spent 10 minutes talking about the three-headed monster at running back and didn't mention Jeff Wilson's name once. I think he's probably going to be the odd man out.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, maybe if they need to flip a draft pick next year for a lineman, I think you're going to see some kind of movement at that position.
Yeah, makes sense. Heading over to the defense, forced 2 turnovers, held the Falcons to 200 some yards. I feel like it was pretty solid play by the defense. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, you look. You were going up against a rookie quarterback in his first NFL action. I know it was only preseason, so you're not going to throw a bunch of exotic blitzes at him. But I mean, Michael Penix was not super, super impressive, and I think the Dolphins' defense is a big reason why. Look, Patrick McMorris is not a rookie that we talked about a lot. There's so many safeties on this team. He's always had an uphill challenge just to make the 53. But look, he led the team in tackles, had 2 tackles for loss and a pass defense. Safety, you can't ask for much more than that in a first preseason game. So that was impressive. Channing Tindall, who we have not talked about. I don't know if we've ever mentioned the name Channing Tindall on this podcast. Third-year player now, former third-round pick, who couldn't sniff the field on defense the first 2 years. He had a couple of splash plays that was encouraging. I just think in general, like Neville Gallimore, Leonard Payne, they have a bunch of rotational players. We know the stars in that: Jalen Ramsey and Javon Holland and Jalen Phillips, who we haven't talked about yet, who's back on the active roster. But they're going to need to get contributions from a lot of these guys that are the Neville Gallimores of the world, and I think you saw a lot of that in that preseason game.
Yeah, I mean, talking about, so they had 1 sack last game, and I guess we're going to be seeing a lot more sacks coming our way since we got JP15 coming back. Welcome back, JP. I am so excited to have you back. Like, the fans have been going crazy all off season, counting the days till you're back, and here we are, finally back from the pup list.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a more likable guy on that team. Really, really great dude. And
What an example of fortitude and perseverance and strength, and just his ability to get back this quickly. It's very, very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's less than 8 months. He got hurt Black Friday, which is not less than 9 months.
Yeah.
So like 8 and a
Yeah.
half months. The usual recovery for Achilles is 9 to 12. So he is absolutely on the front end of that. And you watch the TikTok videos and all that, and you can tell he put in the work. This offseason. We saw him do a little bit more today in practice. I would be stunned if they put him at risk in the preseason. My guess is they're really tailoring everything to week 1, but they expect him to start the opener. They expect him to be available then. They would not have brought him off the PUP list because once you come off PUP, you're off. Like there's no going back. And so he's either on the active
There
roster.
better not be any going back.
Right. So he's either on the active roster or he's on IR to start the season. That ain't happening. So if you activate him with 4 weeks to go, you do so with the full conviction that he's going to be ready for week one. And that's just great.
He practiced yesterday.
And again today. Yeah. And what's really encouraging is how good the pass rush has looked without him. And you mentioned some of these backups that got pressure on the quarterback. Chop Robinson continues to really just be a really solid rookie and always active, always in the backfield. That was great to see. Quentin Bell, who we kind of were hoping would have a big splash first preseason game, was quiet. We'll see if that was just a one-off or maybe, he's starting to revert to the mean. But Emmanuel Ogbah has been really, really good. Zach Steeler is going to get pressure on the quarterback. They're going to have some of these blitz packages that you aren't even dreaming of yet. Maybe Jalen Ramsey gets a few sacks this year. Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer. Their linebackers are stout. Their pass rush, even without Bradley Chubb, who I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, but I'd be surprised at this point if he's a week one target for them. Mm-hmm. He might be a 4-week pup type of guy. But I think they have more than enough to get through the first month or so of the season, even if Chubb needs to take a little bit longer to come back. If, and again, this is a big if, they keep all those dudes healthy, it's going to be really, really hard for opposing offenses to account for all of them. They just have so much talent in the pass rush game.
I feel like this podcast is so positive, and I'm really, really feeding off your positivity today, Adam.
I was thinking I had that long ass drive home from Miami Gardens to Northwest Broward County, and I was thinking, like, what are all the topics we talk about? And I was like, there are a bunch of questions I still have, and I could bring up some negatives. But I was like, you know what? Allie says I'm always negative.
Oh, so you did this intentionally?
Yeah, I did. So,
that's good because Dolphin fans have a reason to be fired up this season.
Totally. No, this is one of the best 10 teams in the National Football League, and they could be the best one-of-one team in the National Football League when it's all said and done. It's going to take a lot to break their way, but there's absolutely no reason that Dolphins fans shouldn't dream big about this team. They've got as much talent as they've ever had on offense and defense. I mean, you could talk about the 1970s teams. That's apples and oranges. They had like 9 Hall of Famers on that team. But in the modern era of 21st century football, we've never seen anything like this. And so, yeah, Dolphins fans should absolutely be excited.
Well, let me speak for all of us when I say we are excited. We are ready. So we had the Commanders joint practices this week, and what has your impressions been of the joint practices with the Commanders and the Dolphins and everything you've been seeing?
Yeah, so the Dolphins will practice solo one more day tomorrow, mm-hmm. And then the Commanders will be in town Thursday for one off practice.
Okay,
and then the game on Saturday. It's kind of good that there's not multiple practices because last week the second practice with the Falcons is when the extracurriculars really picked up. I do think that there can be a little too much familiarity breeding contempt sometimes with joint practices. That there's too much of a good thing.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see. Look, the Commanders are a team in transition for sure. They got some pieces that you really like. Jaden Daniels, they're going to see a lot of him practicing, and my guess is playing in the preseason game. He mm-hmm. needs to work. So that'll be exciting to see. Was he the number 2 pick in the draft, to see how he fares? There's a lot of cross-pollination between these rosters. I mean, you go way back, and Mike McDaniel was on they weren't current the Commanders then. They were called a little bit more of a un-PC name.
Oh, we're not allowed to say it at all anymore.
Yeah, they're not name anymore, apparently. But he was on that staff, on the Shanahan staff, 15 years ago or whatever it was. And it was a real kind of formative time for him. And then Dan Quinn, who's the coach of the Commanders now, was his head coach when they were in Atlanta together. And they went to the Super Bowl and, what was it, 28-3 and all that. They lived through that heartache together. And even on a more personal note, like Mike's been really open about his demons, his personal addiction and all that. And Dan Quinn was one of the people that helped him get right. So I
That's right.
there's a
Mhm.
ton of goodwill between those two sides. There's a reason. Look, teams have like they set their preseason schedule. They set who they have joint practices with. All these things. The NFL kind of has a guiding hand, but like it's up to the teams to figure out, what they're going to do in the preseason. And I think it's not an accident that last week was the Falcons, which was also a Mike McDaniel team, obviously, with Raheem Morris, he worked with him in Washington. I believe they worked together in Atlanta as well. Long history there. We fast forward a week. This is like the Mike McDaniel. This is your life. Last year,
Yeah,
joint practice with the Texans. That's where he got his start.
right.
San Fran's just way too far away. And I don't know, honestly, I think the Dolphins and the Niners joint practicing together would be too much. Like it would
Yeah.
be like it wouldn't like all those stars, all those personalities, Shanahan versus McDaniel, the mentor versus the mentee, all these storylines. That may have been a bit much. This is probably
Mhm.
more the appropriate speed. Plus, no one's going to fly 5 hours for a preseason game. That's as much as I'd like to be in the Bay Area in August. I don't think that's really in the cards.
Yeah,
But
even
but
I wouldn't be doing that.
you wouldn't be making that trip.
No,
Um,
not for preseason, no.
I mean, I will say this: when the Dolphins go to the Bay Area, I usually parlay it into a Napa trip, and I
Uh-huh.
have I have organized a wine tour with the Dolphins beat before.
Now you're
Uh,
speaking my language. I better
so
be on the next tour, mister.
look, all I'm saying is I don't think it's this year. Obviously, it's not this year. It's New Orleans, but I think next year is San Francisco again for the Super Bowl.
Ah.
Dolphins go. Beasley and Dolfreaky have an event in wine country. I'm
Wine
just throwing it
tour!
out.
Wine
I'm
tour
just
fan
throwing it out there.
party! You know that's
We,
my specialty is throwing parties, dude. We
yep.
could do it up
I
right in Napa
I've been known to
Valley.
organize a social outing as well once or twice.
Oh!
I have a pretty famous Christmas party every year. So oh yeah, no, we do it right here in Parkland, Florida.
Oh,
So
this sounds fun. You know what? I'm gonna segue into this for a little bit because we're going all in on Richmond Webb and his Hall of
mhm.
Fame campaign. And I'm on the fan committee and I'm taking this very seriously. And, the semifinalist vote happens sometime in the month of September. So we don't have much time to get into the ears of the Hall of Fame voters right now. So we have a couple things that we're doing right now. So there's a fan video challenge. So make a video explaining why you think that Richmond Webb belongs in the Hall of Fame. Submit that video to us on Twitter at the Rich Webb to the PFHOF Twitter, and we'll post your video and then nominate somebody else to do the video challenge. That's the first thing. And then the second thing today, I just dropped the info, is the night before the home opener at the Marriott Maritime, we are doing a game night, pajama night with Richmond Webb for the fans to come out, drink, have some food, play some games. We got Twister. We got all kinds of things going on over there. So I just dropped that information today. So I hope everyone will come out and support Richmond Webb for the Hall of Fame campaign. And, we're really, really, really trying to get this done now.
The visual in my brain of Richmond Webb and like head to toe pajamas is just like, how large must those pajamas be for that man?
Wait till you see the flyer I made.
I would like
When
to
you
see.
see the
I would like
flyer,
to see you like next to each other. You saw the picture of Shaq and Simone Biles. Is
it's
that
happening. It's happening.
yeah.
It's happening. It's happening. All of that will be at the pajama party, and that'll be the Saturday before the home opener. So, what more fun can you have? I figure, like everybody's like, we always do these uptight events, where everybody just like goes and like, drink, whatever, raffles, yada yada, same thing. I'm like, my friend Maria Caraballo came out with this idea. Her daughter Christy came up with it. Game night. And I'm like, pajama party. And then it's just like boom, 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 boom. All these different things came into place. So that's what we're
Okay.
doing.
I just got to say,
Add some
some
wine.
some of the ladies of Dolphins Twitter, you have to be concerned about what their pajama attire.
I'm not concerned at all. I'm not putting
to,
any
is this
restrictions
going
on
to
the
be
type.
is this going to be a PG event, or is this going
It's
to
a
be
family fun game
all
night,
right, because
okay? It's a family fun game night.
you do get worried sometimes about the wardrobe choices that you sometimes see on twitter.com. So
Let's just put it this way. It's a pajama night. It is not lingerie night.
okay. All right.
So I think, my vision is like pajama pants and the top is where it's going to be controversial.
Oh, all right.
Careful with
Okay.
what I say.
I see what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Let's think family fun, and it's going to start at 6:00 and it's going to go till late. So I'm not putting any restrictions on anything, and I'm also not policing this. So come what may.
I mean, I will say sometimes guardrails are good in life. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes it's good to keep in the middle of the road.
Let's just remember that this event is about Richmond Webb getting into the Hall of Fame. Okay, we're going to have t-shirts for sale. So if anyone is wearing something inappropriate, I'll be happy to provide you with a t-shirt, just like they do in Disney World.
I think this is a perfect way to put a pin in this half an hour of ridiculousness. But yes,
I always have something going on, guys. I'm telling you, probably every week this season, there's going to be some sort of fan party going on. I'm going to be looking a lot different as these podcasts go on. Some podcasts I might be sleeping, no makeup. I'm going to be exhausted as the season goes on, but I literally cannot wait for this.
Well, I literally rolled in from Dolphins practice. I can't imagine how ripe I am right now, but I put a hat on and
we can't smell you through the screen, so that's no problem.
All right, let's get out of here. Dolphins Commanders on Saturday, 7 p.m. kickoff. Airing locally on CBS 4.
Will Tua play?
Oh, yes. I think he'll get some snaps. Although he wants to play.
Yep.
If Waddle's not back, Odell can't play, and Tyreek's not feeling it, what's the benefit of playing Tua? And that's the only reason I think maybe he doesn't. I would be surprised. And also some questions on the offensive line. So Tua wants to play. Tua could use the work. They all could use the work, obviously. But is it the wisest thing to put him out there? If it's
probably not the wisest thing, but yet maybe this is a good chance for some of our rookie receivers to get some shine.
I mean, there's nobody else, so yeah, probably so.
At least they know the ball will come their way.
Yeah, we'll get plenty of exercise, that's for sure. All right, we're out of here.
All right, guys. Tune in next week. Fins up.
Talk to you guys soon.